Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra Unit 8B review number 1. Remember to show all your work. So, looking at number 1, which of the following equations can be used by solving inverse operations or SADMAP? Circle all that apply, okay? So only the ones that can be solved by inverse operations. So looking at number A, how would I solve number A? Yeah, I would factor number 8 or A because they both have a GCF, and so that's not SADMAP. Now B, how would I solve this? Well, there's no linear term, so if there's no linear term, that's when we use inverse operations. C, the 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. No. Okay. There's a linear term there, so we cannot use inverse operations. What about D? Yeah, if it's in vertex form means we can use SADMAP. All right, let's look at 2. So 2 is saying which of the following equations can be solved by factoring. So which ones this time can be solved by factoring? Which ones do you think? Yeah, I agree that A can because we would factor out the 5x. Yeah, A. What about B? Yeah, technically, well, you can be like, well, Mr. Grice, I'm going to add 45 and use inverse operations. Well, yes, you can use inverses here, but you can also factor out the 5, get x squared minus 9, take the square root. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's factoring right there. Okay, what about C? Yes, C you can factor. We would do A times C, which is 32. Find out what two numbers multiply. I think it's x minus 4 and x minus 8. So yeah, that's factoring. And then D. Well, there's no GCF, so I can't break that down. I'm looking for numbers that multiply to get to 12 and add to get to -5. And there's nothing, so I can't do anything with D. D would have to do quadratic. Okay? So you guys need to be able to look at a problem and know how to solve it. All right, now let's go into the fun ones. So the directions say to solve the quadratic equations by using an appropriate method, factoring, inverse operations, or the quadratic formula. So let's take a look at number 3 first. I need to look at my quadratic term and move the smaller one. So the smaller one is the 5w squared. So if I'm moving the 5w squared to the other side, I should move the 4 to the other side. So everything cancels, we set equal to 0, and then we get w squared minus 2w plus 1. Okay, so I need to check, is there GCF? No. Are there any numbers that we can multiply to get to 1 and add to get to -2? Yeah, -1 and 1, or -1 and -1. It works for both scenarios. Now my leading coefficient is 1, so I can go straight to the shortcut. So we got w minus 1 and w minus 1 equals 0. Okay, I can set everything with a variable to 0, and then the fun thing about this is we get the same answer for both of these. So our answer is w equals 1. Okay, so we solved that one by factoring. right away, number 4, I know I'm going to solve this by setnut because it's in vertex form. Okay? So inverse operations, I'm going to subtract the 5 first. I have 3 parentheses x plus 4 squared equals 108. Next, I need to cancel multiplication with division. And then I get x plus 4 squared equals 108 divided by 8 is, 36. To get rid of the square, I need to take the square root. And once I take the square root, that's a plus or a minus 6. Okay, now to solve, I have to subtract 4, and x equals plus or minus 6 minus 4. So now we have to solve that. So I have room over here to the right. So I have negative 6 minus 4, and then I have 6 minus 4 to give us our two answers of negative 10 and 2. So x equals negative 10 and 2. So that's an example of using inverse operations to solve. All right, number 5. So the first thing that we want to do is set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract the 9 to the other side. And we get x squared minus 14x minus 48 equals 0. So I need to ask myself, is there a GCF? No. So what numbers multiply to get to negative 48 and add to get to negative 14? Well, the factors of 48, let's just write them all down. We got 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and I think it's 16, 4 and 12, and 6 and 8. Are there any combinations in here that's going to get us to negative 14? No. So that means we need to do the quadratic equation. I need to know what A, B, and C are. A is 1, B is negative 14, and C is negative 48. So x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Okay, so let's start plugging everything in. I got negative 14, a negative 14, a is 1, c is negative 48, a is 1. Okay, so the opposite of b, the opposite of a negative 14 is a positive 14, plus or minus. I know the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2. So the only thing that we got to figure out now is the discriminant. Remember, the discriminant is the part underneath the square root. Okay, so I have negative 14 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 48. And that gives us an answer of 388. Okay, so that's what goes underneath. And now I'm going to break this up to 14 plus the square root of 388 divided by 2, and 14 minus the square root of 388 divided by 2. Okay, now for each one of these, we got to do this into our calculator. So I would do 14 plus the square root of 388, find out what my answer is, and then I have to divide that by 2. And that's going to be 16.85. So rounded is 16.85. Okay, so now we have to do the other one. Now I have 14 minus the square root of 388. Find out what that equals. And then I have to take that answer and divide it by 2. And I get negative 2.85. Good. So negative 2.85. So my final answer, I've got x is equivalent, rounded, and then just put them in order. Negative 2.85 and 16.85. Okay. Next one, number 6. All right, so I have a positive quadratic term already. So I'm going to subtract the negative 5. And then I'm going to add the 44. Those cancel. And I get 10p squared. Up, the p's cancel. Plus 48 equals 0. Okay, well, I don't have a linear term, so I can use inverse operations. So I subtract the 48. I get 10p squared equals negative 48. The next step would be is to divide. Now don't be scared because I get a decimal right here. It's a negative 4.8. But as I do my next step in square root, can I square root a negative number? No way. No way, Jose. So we would say no real solution. All right, on to the word problems. Justin's new cat Franklin ran away from home and got stuck in a tree. A fireman tried to rescue the cat, but unfortunately, as soon as the fireman picked Franklin up, he dropped the cat and it fell to the ground. Luckily, cats always land on their feet. The vertical motion of the cat is represented by the equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 40, where t is the time in seconds and h is the cat's height from the ground in feet. So t is time in seconds and h is height in feet. So whenever we're looking at these problems, I want to know what's my h, what's my t, what's my h, what's my t, what's my h, what's my t. So the first one, what was the initial height? What was Franklin the cat's initial height before he fell? So what's the initial height? That means I don't know what the height is, which means I must know what the time is. Well, initial height, has any time passed yet? No, so time is 0. When I'm plugging into the equation, I'm going to plug in 0 for t, which is nice. I can do this in my head. 0 squared is 0. Negative 16 times 0 is 0. So all of that cancels. And what we're left with is h equaling 40. And it's going to be 40 feet. Okay. How far above the ground after Franklin was 0.5 seconds. So they're telling me that time is 0.5. And once again, I got to find the height. So h equals negative 16 t squared plus 40. And we're plugging in 0.5. Okay, so I have negative 16 times 0.5 squared plus 40. And that gives us, yep, 36. So h equals 36, and we're talking feet. Okay. How long did it take Franklin the cat to land on the ground? Now, even though there's no numbers here, they actually tell us something. Yeah, they tell us the height because it's the ground, and the ground is 0 feet, and now we're trying to find the time. Okay, so we have 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 40. Now there's a couple different ways you can solve this. There's no linear term, which means we can solve using inverses. I just like to have a positive quadratic term. So I'm going to add the 16t squared to the other side. And we get 16t squared equals 40. Let's zoom in here. The next step would be to divide by 16. And we get t squared equals 40 divided by 16 is 2.5. And then to solve for t, I'd take the square root. And then we would get t is, well, yeah, this one you have to round. So here we go. We'll do it together. I'm taking the square root of 5, which is, oh, not the square root of 5, sorry. We're taking the square root of 2.5. And we get 1.58. Good, so approximately 1.58 seconds. Now, if I'm taking the square root of something, I get a positive and a negative. Why do I not care about the negative? Can we have negative time? No, there's no time travel. Okay? So, there we go. Reviews mean that there's a test coming up. So, if you have any questions, now's the time to come in for help. All right, well, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra Unit 8B Review number 1. Thanks for watching.